Hi, my name is Stevie, and this video is about the fastest way to get hired as a game developer at a game studio. In fact, this is a strategy I followed myself to get hired as a game developer in a junior role within a year and a half from starting to learn how to program and create games. By the end of this video, I'll also share with you one of my secret tips and strategies for how to really stand out when it comes to applying at a game studio that you want to work at and is hiring. Now, the key to getting hired as a game developer at a game studio is to think from their perspective. A game development studio, when they're looking to bring someone onto their team, a fundamental question that they're going to be asking themselves is, can this person we're bringing onto our team help us with the process of making games? The best way to showcase that you're the best person for that role and that you have the abilities to help them with making games is to make games yourself. Now, if you have an interest in games and you follow game studios, you'll know that when it comes to making games, it can often be a multi-year long project. Now, if your goal is to try and get hired as a game developer as quickly as possible, you won't have the time to commit these multi-years into creating these game projects. The trick here is to focus on what the industry calls vertical slices. What is a vertical slice? A vertical slice is a fully playable portion of a game that shows its developer's intended player experience, usually a 10 to 15 minute experience. The focus on vertical slices is what makes the biggest difference, because if you're trying to make a 30-hour fully fledged RPG game, that's going to take you years, but a 10 to 15 minute vertical slice, that's doable within a month to a couple months. Now I'll give you 3 tips on how to approach a vertical slice, as well as my secret tip for how to really stand out when it comes to applying for a game studio that you want to join. Your very first step when it comes to approaching a vertical slice should be to plan out what you need in order for it to work. And what I mean by that is to literally sit there and write down all the systems and functionality and things you need in order to make this vertical slice gameplay, the game loop, all that stuff work. By creating this list, you'll get a sense of how big it is as you assign a time frame for how long it's going to take you to complete each task and step. It doesn't have to be accurate. As you gain experience over time, you'll get more and more accurate at predicting how much work is involved with creating each systems. But the most important thing here is that as you work through this process, you'll get a sense of how long it's going to take you to complete the vertical slice. For example, if you write down like 20 tasks that you need to do, each task that you're working on, you put down, this takes 1 day, this takes 2 days, adding sound, that's 1 day, writing a game state program, that track game state, that's going to take you a week or something like that. By the end of it, when you tally up all of the time commitment needed and required and involved, you'll get a sense of whether this is a doable project or not, right? Because if it's starting to showcase that, this vertical slice is going to take you a year, then you've obviously scoped too large and you're going to have to start cutting stuff. Now, my tip number 2 is directly related to this as well, and that is to limit your scope. You want your vertical slice to be doable within a month to 3 months, especially if you're trying to learn game development and become a game developer as quickly as possible, because you don't want to get stuck on one project for too long. You want a brisk pace that challenges you enough, but at the same time, you don't just continuously work on the same problem over and over again. One of the big benefits of working on these vertical slices is that they're, in a sense, a miniature game loop, right? And by working on these things, it's going to give you an opportunity to work on all different aspects of a game, including one of the most important aspects, finishing a game, right? Because once the vertical slice is complete, it should be a fully playable game loop from start to finish, which means you'll be iterating on the gameplay. You'll be implementing animations, implementing models. You'll basically work through a lot of different challenges when it comes to making a game, which is really important when it comes to professional development. And ideally, over the long run, over a year and a half, you tackle multiple of these vertical slices, where you learn a lot from each one, and everything that you learn, hopefully, is applicable to the next vertical slice that you challenge. And this is how, as a game developer, you're going to quickly build on your skills and develop that experience needed, along with showcasing that you have the ability to make games. Now, my tip number 3 for every vertical slice that you do is that there should only be one major game system that you're going to be working on as the primary challenge. right? Because when it comes to making these experiences, they only need to work within that 10 to 15 minute time frame. So for example, you really probably don't even need to create something like a save system because it's just a simple gameplay loop, right? It's only meant to be played once as a singular experience for that 10 to 15 minutes. So with that in mind, you should be very critical about the systems that you're implementing within the vertical slice, right? You may be able to get away, for example, with not really having complex AI, right? Instead of having AI that uses a behavior tree that decides what they do based on a bunch of factors, maybe it's just all pre-programmed and pre-selected ahead of time, and they're just going through a predetermined route that you, as the creator, have already decided. And the reason why is because for example, your major game system you're working on is maybe something else like procedural generation or something like that. By keeping only one major game system or one challenge or learning outcome that you have a target for the vertical slice, ensures that you're focusing your energies in the right place because you're not going to be able to do everything, and ensures that every vertical slice that you challenge and do, you learn something out of it that's significant. Now for my final tip for how to really stand out when it comes to applying for a game studio that you want to join and they're currently hiring, is that maybe for your final vertical slice, what I would recommend is that vertical slice is a vertical slice of a game that game studio that you want to join has already created. This way, what it ends up showcasing to the studio is that you really have the capabilities to help them with making types of games that they want. Because you just made a vertical slice of one of the games that they've already made, and if you're making a sequel for it, perfect. You're showcasing that you have the initiative, you have the interest, and you've been developing the skills necessary to be able to help their team with making the next iteration or new IP of that particular game. So all in all, if you follow the strategy that I'll outline, within a year to year and a half, what you're going to have is a bunch of vertical slices that you can use as portfolio pieces. And if you followed my additional tip of creating a vertical slice based on a IP or game that the studio you want to join has already made, you have a talking point when it comes to the interview where they're for sure going to ask you, what were the challenges that you ran into when creating that particular piece. Or if they ask you what game piece that you're most proud of, you can highlight that piece. And that becomes a great talking point because them as a studio, because they spent so much time working on it, they're going to have a very familiar understanding of the challenges and deep insight into what are the critical issues to address for that. And since you spent the time to create that vertical slice, you're going to have an opinion and showcase that you're knowledgeable and a potential expert that can help them with the next iteration or whatnot. It basically just really demonstrates that you have the capabilities of making games, which is what these studios are looking for when they're bringing on developers. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them to the best I can. And if you find this content valuable or you're interested in more content like this, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel because I'll be producing more of this.